Please help me welcome Todd Sharp.
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster members. The theory that a country's land, transport, industries, and property should be owned or controlled by the community as a whole. Many of you will recognize that as the definition of socialism. Since the election of our current administration, there's been a lot of discussion about our country moving in the direction of the European-style socialism. And with all the government bailouts, capping salaries and bonuses of CEOs, the push for a government option in health care, a UN model cap and trade bill, and the push for a value-added tax looming on the horizon, it's hard to argue that our country isn't taking a hard left turn towards a more socialistic society. But I think the question we need to ask is, did all of this start with the election of Barack Obama in the last November election? In 1944, a speech by the Socialist Party presidential candidate Norman Mattoon Thomas stated, "The American people will never knowingly adopt socialism, but under the name of liberalism, they will adopt every fragment of the socialistic program, until one day America will be a socialist nation without even knowing that it had happened." Now, is it possible that an entire form of government can change without the people knowing it? Let's focus on the word knowing for a minute. Do you know who your justice of the peace is? Do you know who your state representative or state senator is? Do you know who your U.S. congressman is? Assuming that you know the answer to those questions, do you know how they voted on the last budget? Do you know what legislation they sponsored or co-authored? Do you know how they stand as individuals on issues that are important to you? Do you know how they voted on key legislation and how the ramifications of that vote will impact your lives? If you don't know the answer to those questions, would you notice that your government was changing? If large changes happened overnight or in the period of 1 year, I think we would all notice those changes. But would we notice gradual changes taking place over a period of 75, 80 years? I like to point out that just over 80 years ago, this country had no federal or state income tax. Norman Mattoon Thomas ran for President of the United States 6 times as a Socialist Party of America's candidate. A couple of years after his last failed attempt in 1948, he declared, "I no longer need to run as a presidential candidate for the Socialist Party. The Democratic Party has adopted our platform and over time will advance our agenda under the guise of liberalism." Does that mean that every Democrat is a socialist? No, I don't think it means that at all. But I do believe that there is a socialistic faction of our government that's found a home in the far left wing of the Democratic Party. Thomas is credited with helping form 2 organizations to help advance his socialistic agenda, one of which we all know as the ACLU, and the other is the lesser-known Democratic Socialist Party of America. Today there are 56 members of our U.S. Congress that are members of the Democratic Socialist Party of America, and over 70 congressional members in all. So I think that it's safe to answer my previous question. Did our country's advancement towards socialistic principles start with the election of Barack Obama? I think the answer is clearly no, it did not. I believe that it has been a strategic and calculated movement that has been refined and adapted for many, many years. I'm not standing here today asking any of you to agree or disagree with the advancement of socialism. I'm not asking you to agree or adhere to my political philosophies or beliefs. It doesn't matter if you support capitalism or socialism, if you're a liberal or a conservative, if you vote Democrat or Republican. If anything that you heard today surprised you, or if you couldn't answer the questions about your elected officials or the legislation that they create, then ask yourself, why don't I know? Don't let your government change without you knowing. Be educated, be informed, and be engaged. Because as the old saying by Pericles goes, just because you don't take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics isn't taking an interest in you. Thank you.